that time of year again where people are making plans and they're hanging out, and you might stumble across an Instagram story of your friends hanging out without you. And you may ask yourself, where was my invite? Why wasn't I invited? And I want to talk about that today. Being excluded, not being invited, and the million and one reasons why it happens, because I don't think it is always malicious. Welcome back to the Messy Friendship Lessons podcast. Raise your hand if you've not been invited to something more than once by your friends. I feel like this is a universal experience. Am I wrong? Have you, like, I feel like everyone has experienced that. I feel like everyone has not been invited to something, and I feel like everyone has not invited other people to certain things for whatever reason. I genuinely think about 20% of the time, people are not inviting you to be malicious, and the other 80% are non-malicious reasons. So let's get into it. Non-malicious reason number one why you weren't invited is because you have beef with someone there. I think this makes up a huge percentage of the reason why people don't get invited to things. A lot of you have beef with the people who are coming or the people who are there. And I have been put in this position several times where I have not invited someone because they're beefing with the other person. And it's usually when I've been a part of a friend group, which you guys know how I feel about friend groups. I think they're tricky to navigate. In secondary school, I was in this situation, except that one was like a little messier because we didn't actually know why girl A was beefing girl B. Girl A just came back in a new term and just decided she no longer wanted to be Girl B's friend. I mean, maybe other people in the group knew. I didn't. I was oblivious to the whole thing. From my perspective, I was friends with both Girl A and Girl B, so I was still hanging out with Girl A and Girl B. But what would happen is when we would do huge group activities, it would either be Girl A was there or either Girl B was there. Plans would just be made based on who was with us at the time. So before you jump to conclusions, if you see your friends hanging out with someone, think, is there somebody in that group that I don't like or I don't get along with well? Could it potentially be that I wasn't invited to this particular event because it was planned with said person? Now, it gets a little tricky when you feel like they're constantly planning events with the other person and not you when there's beef, because then it feels like they've picked a side. But I honestly feel like it's always going to feel that way. You're more likely to notice all the times you weren't there than the times you are there, because you'll feel that loss and you'll feel that rejection and you'll feel that FOMO seeing people having fun without you. So I don't think that kind of dynamic can work in the long run. You either have to make up with that person in that friend group, or if you think you can't do that, I would leave the friend group. There's so much memories being made without you because they have to play both sides of both people. And eventually, the people in the middle will get tired and they will pick a side. Eventually, there was someone I hung out with more and I prioritized their feelings over the other person. Now, reason number two. Most of us who haven't been invited to things have probably heard these words before. I didn't think you'd want to come. I just didn't think you'd want to come. And if you're like me, that has either really irritated you or made you go, oh, okay, you're right. Like, I wouldn't have wanted to come. Because sometimes they are right, it's not your scene, and you would have said no anyway. Some people like to receive the invite despite the fact, because the invite says, I would love for you to be here, I'd want you to spend time with us. And then it then puts the ball in your court to reject or deny. But when there's no invite, you feel like you've been rejected immediately, right? So for example, I have not been drinking for a while now. One of my really good friends, she was planning a celebration, and I remember she wanted to go for a bottomless brunch. Like, brunch? Yes. Bottomless brunch? I'll have a hard pass. But she still messaged me and extended the invite, and in her message she was like, hey, I wanted to invite you, we're going for a bottomless brunch. I know you're not drinking, but I still wanted to extend the invite and let you know that one of you there is my bestie. Like, and I was like, oh, you're so sweet. Like, yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna come because I'm not gonna pay for a bottomless brunch when I'm just gonna have juice or something. I think they didn't even have like a. When I had looked at the place in the menu, it didn't really have an option for you not to do the bottomless brunch. Like, you were either doing the bottomless brunch or you weren't doing it. That was kind of the vibe I got. But like, thank you so much for considering me and sending out the invite, which I thought was sweet. And you know what? If your friends are repeatedly doing things that are not your scene and repeatedly not inviting you, maybe you need new friends because you might not be compatible with them if there's nothing that they do that could be something that you would be interested in. Or two, they're straight up using it as an excuse and they don't want to hang out with you. I think the best way to handle those kind of situations is just ask them, like, hey, why didn't you invite me? They'll let you know that they didn't think it was your scene, and then you can let them know that you prefer to be invited regardless and give you the option to choose whether or not you would come. Because it still stings. Even though we know the reasons and they're logical and they make sense, it doesn't stop the not being invited from hurting our feelings. The best thing to do is talk about it, because before we jump to the conclusion that our friends hate us, we should do a process of elimination. So, question one, okay? You see your friends out, yeah, without you. One, do I have beef with someone there? Yes or no? If the answer is no, next question, is it my scene? Did they think it wasn't my scene? You'll find that out when you ask them. They'll either tell you the truth or they'll be weird about it. Now, question number 3 is about you, and you have to be honest with yourself. Do you flake a lot on plans? Are you unreliable? Are you always late? And when I say late, I mean like an hour or two late. Some people have justifiable reasons that make them that late. Some people have justifiable reasons why they flake. It doesn't change the fact that your friends will start to view you as unreliable. There was a time where I was very flaky. OMG, I was so unreliable. And people stopped inviting me to things, and then I would act shocked. But they'd be like, well, every time I invite you, you've said no. So I just thought you wouldn't want to come because you always say no, or you always say you can't. And I was like, yeah, you are right. I always say I can't. I always can't come. So why should you invite me? So yeah, it's not that you're bad company, but it's that you may be unreliable and you need to self-assess with that one. Like, if you want to be included in an activity, you need to respect people's time. Non-malicious reason number 4 is kind of funny, and it's also person dependent. Your friends may not be inviting you because you can't read a room, or there's a certain behavior that you have that is strange or rude or potentially abrasive. And so there's certain places and situations and rooms that they will not invite you into. Some people have friends who just like say the wildest things. And so they're like, look, I'm going to my cousin's wedding. I get to invite 3 people. I'm going to choose these 3 people, and I didn't invite you because I know that when you get to the wedding, you'll be talking about how marriage is just a piece of paper and you don't see the point or whatever. And it's like, read the room. We're at a wedding, Things like that can sometimes be the reason you weren't invited, which has nothing to do with malice or not liking you as a person. Me personally, I have to say this. I cannot fathom being friends with someone who you would be worried what they say. I personally, if I'm so worried about what you say and I think anything you say would be abrasive, or I think you wouldn't fit into certain rooms that I would be in, I probably wouldn't be friends with you. But that's just me. I know that not everyone feels that way, and honestly, I think that's okay. I like to be friends with people who are emotionally intelligent and can read the room and can know when to have certain conversations and don't make public interactions or socializing unnecessarily uncomfortable. The 5th reason I have down here is actually more common than you think. It wasn't planned. Sometimes it just was not planned. You weren't invited because it was not a planned thing. It kind of was impromptu. It just happened. And so no one was intentionally leaving you out. You just physically were not there. A friend of mine had called me on FaceTime and we were just kicking, laughing, catching up, just having a whale of a time. And we were talking about something and I was like, my gosh, we should add X to the call. Because I think it was linked to something we'd done together or whatever. But we were like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's ask X to the call and ask her and talk about it. And we added X to the call. And then we all ended up being on FaceTime for ages together, right? Just kicking, laughing, having a great time. And screenshots of that FaceTime call were then posted in a group chat where all 4 of us were still in. Because there wasn't a separate group chat, didn't exist at this time. There was no group chat with just us and friend A and just us and friend B because we weren't trying to do that. We weren't trying to purposely exclude either one of them. The two of them had fallen out. At this point, it was unclear if they would rekindle like they usually do, or if this was for good. In hindsight now, I know that this was for good and it was final. But at the time, I feel like from my perspective, I was just like, let's see how this one plays out, because how many times have I heard, oh, I never want to be friends with her again, and they end up being friends again. So story of my life, honestly. Boarding school teachers that you that, like the amount of friendship breakups and rekindling. But I love a good friendship rekindle. I actually don't have a problem with rekindling friendships. I'm very pro it. So I was like, is this going to be another breakup and rekindle? Because whatever. But anyway, it was not planned. But friend A messaged me and was like, oh my gosh, like I saw you all got on FaceTime and like planned this like FaceTime call and hung out without me. I was like, babe, that was never the case. It wasn't even planned. Friend B called me. We were talking about something and decided to add, our other mutual friend to the call, and we all started kicking. And then a screenshot of this was sent into the group chat, because that's the only group chat we have with all of us. Like, it wasn't meant to slight you. Honestly, there was no forethought, which I think is the insensitive part. Again, hindsight is 2020. Looking back, I think the lack of forethought was the insensitive part of just being like, oh, friend A is also in the group chat. She wasn't on the FaceTime call. She's going to feel some type of way if someone sent in the screenshot. I can't remember who sent it. Did I send it or did friend B? I can't remember, but a screenshot from this call was sent into this group chat where friend A is also present, because, like I said, we weren't trying to intentionally exclude friend A, so there was no separate group chat. I think friend B just sent it in just being like, oh my gosh, ha ha ha, or whatever. Anyway, friend A was really down bad and hurt by that and had thought that there was malice involved, or like we'd all, planned this thing to catch up and have fun without her. Which at first I was like, oh, I mean, friend A, come on. Like, you've been planning things without friend B this whole time, and we've been doing things with just you and not friend B. So like, I didn't see what the big deal was at the time. But like, I can understand it feeling kind of like, well, you didn't plan a FaceTime call with just me. You've planned one with friend B. Because at that point, everybody wants equal time, because if you're not going to pick a side, well, you better hang out with her just as much as you hang out with me, which I get it. But it was not planned. It was not intentional. We were not intentionally trying to leave her out. It just happened. And I've been in a situation where two people I was very close to, I just saw them out together having a great time, and I was like, hello, I thought we were a little trio. Both of you went out and neither of you decided to invite me out with you. Like, that's kind of rude. And they were like, oh, no, it wasn't planned. Like, I was on my way out and she was like, hey, I'm heading out too. Do you want to go together? And we just ended up leaving together and then kind of wandering around and running our errands together. Like, it wasn't even a planned thing. We didn't intentionally want to leave you out. Next time it is unplanned, we'll definitely like send you a text and see if you're free and if you want to join us, and that was the end of that. So yeah, honestly, having a conversation with people and discussing it with them will help you figure out, was this intentional, was this not, was this planned, was it not, and see whether you should get your feelings hurt. Okay, we're on to the last two reasons potentially why you weren't invited. So this is a controversial one, because some people may feel like this one is still malicious. I don't. Reason number 6 is they wanted to have one-on-one time, just the two of them, which is okay. Now, I think it becomes not okay when it's like you have a trio and those are like your only friends and the three of you are the only people who hang out together. Then it feels like, okay, why are just the two of you hanging out without me? It feels like intentional and like an exclusion, and especially if it's repeatedly only them having one-on-one time and no one has one-on-one time with you, then I would say that is a complete different story. But if it's a situation where it's not like you're a solid friend group, you all have your different friendships that sit outside of the three of you, and two people want to hang out together and have one-on-one time, I generally don't think that's a crime. Personally, for me, I love group settings. They're fun, but I connect more with people one-on-one, and with my friends, I like spending quality one-on-one time with people, especially because I'm a bit friendship group averse. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't know. I'm a bit wary of friendship groups. There's several groups I'm in where I'll hang out with just one of them and I'll hang out with the other person, because outside of a couple of us hanging out together, I am friends with you individually and I am friends with you individually. Unless it's a group where every single time we've met up, we've all been together, then I wouldn't be seeking to break away with one person and do one-on-one time if it isn't natural, because then it does come across a little shady. But if it's not a group where we've always done everything together and one-on-one time is actually quite natural, I feel like it's valid. We can't always be included in every single thing. I think, yeah, it's okay for people to want to spend time together and bond together without you being there. And maybe like if the idea of that really bothers you, I think dig deep to understand why you want to be included in everything. What is it, the rejection aspect? Is there something that you feel like, is there a sensitive spot with that? Try and understand that, because I honestly think it is natural to not be invited to every single thing. Of course, that doesn't mean it hurts any less if you understand it, but that is why I think it's good to diversify your friends, because while they're hanging out, you can also hang out with this person. It's not like you're waiting for their one-on-one time to be done before you can have any plans for your weekend. Yeah. Anyway, now our last non-malicious reason seems a bit silly to include or say, but I added this because a while back, a friend was complaining to me about not being invited to something. And I couldn't help but think, but babe, you guys are not friends. Why are you entitled to an invite? So the last reason is you guys are not friends, or you're not that close, right? Why do you feel that you have to be invited? I'm sure my friend views this situation so differently now if she looks back on it. And if you recognize the story, and you're watching this, I think it's hilarious in hindsight. I think we can both laugh at it. But at the time, I did think, the math ain't mathin'. So, and I said this to her, so she knows this. But she was complaining to me about this girl that she already hated, did not like. Honestly, it was giving arch nemesis. And she was like, oh my gosh, can you imagine? Like, she, planned this party and she's invited everyone, but she didn't invite me. And I was like, okay. It's just like, yeah, she like invited literally everyone else but me and maybe a couple other people, but she didn't invite me, and she invited everybody I'm friends with. And I was like, yeah, like I get why that sucks from a FOMO perspective, because it's like, oh, everybody I'm friends with is going to this party and I didn't even get an invite. But the key detail you're missing here in connecting the dots is you hate the girl that is throwing said party. You guys are not friends. In fact, she's low-key your arch nemesis. Why are you entitled to an invite? Solely because she's inviting everyone else and it's like, quote unquote, rude to exclude people? Well, no, you don't like her. You're not nice to her. You don't like her. And you guys are not friends. So I think underpinning this whole topic of why you weren't invited, we need to address the entitlement sometimes in our generation. I think all the participation trophies that people won as kids have taught them that, everyone must be included in every single thing. But such is life. There are things that you won't be invited to. There were things you won't be included in. And I honestly think that's okay. Like, I remember seeing online people dragging this mom because her daughter had a sleepover with 6 of her friends from her class, and about like 5 other girls in the class were not invited or something. And so she had handed out the invites to the sleepover, and the 5 other girls' parents were really upset and like put in a complaint. It was like, that's not okay. Like, she made them feel bad and left out. The mom was like, well, the 6 girls she did invite are her friends, though. Those are the people she spends time with. She doesn't spend time with the other 5 girls. And it's her birthday sleepover. So she wanted to do a birthday sleepover. And so she invited the 6 girls she's actually friends with. And personally, I do not see an issue with that. I don't think everyone needs to be invited to everything. I don't think you're entitled to an invite. The only spaces where I think you can get butthurt about not being invited is you are friends with the person, and extra points if you are best friends with this person, extra points if they are your family, okay? Because I think with family should be including you things. I think that's like really weird if your family are excluding you and is valid reasons for hurt feelings, okay? But I definitely think there's tiers to it. So yeah, these are the things. I'm sure there's a bunch of other reasons, and many people can like give reasons why they haven't invited people to things that haven't been malicious. I just wrote down the reasons that I haven't invited someone or I haven't been invited. So before you jump to the conclusion that you were not invited because of malicious reasons, because people don't like you, because, they're nasty, I would run through these reasons. And if you've run through all those and you're like, no, and the answer to all of those is no, then I think you can start to come to the conclusion that it was malicious. Now, if your friends are excluding you to be malicious because they don't want to hang out with you, because they want you to feel alone, because they think it's funny to be mean and not have you there, because they don't really like you and they don't know how to be direct about it, then I think you need to read between the lines, okay? Especially if you've gone up to them and asked them why they haven't invited you. They've given you some silly reason. You've told them, okay, next time just like ask me, I may want to come, or next time please just invite me. And they don't, and they repeatedly exclude you. Those are people who don't want to hang out with you. Stop wasting your time, your energy, and your tears, baby girl, and go find people who want to hang out with you. Okay? Because I promise you there's someone out there for everyone. Like, I had been in that situation. I haven't been in that situation as an adult, but I was when I was in school. And it was really tough, but I just went and made other friends. Like, I could tell, okay, these people do not want me in their friend group anymore. They really actually don't want to be my friend anymore. There was one time that we would have to pair up to walk to the sports field because it was very far away from the boarding houses. And everyone would like pair up and go together. So I had gotten ready for sport and I said to everyone, I was like, hey, like, I'm ready to go. Let's all go together. And she wasn't a matron. She was like, the school I went to used to have a gap year system where people who are on their gap year could come and like be in the UK for their gap year while supervising us in the boarding house. So they would act as a matron and just work with the matrons and help them pick up little tasks. Everyone had gotten ready for sport. I was ready to go. The girl in her gap year who was overseeing us was like, oh, I'll escort you guys down to the sports field. So I was like, oh, okay. And they were all sniggering in a corner together. And I was thinking, oh, what's going on? But whatever. So we all started our walk. The whole group of us heading to the sports field. And there are two ways you could go. You could go through another boarding house, or you could go down and all the way around. And as we are walking, we turn the corner to go through the other boarding house. And then as we are walking down, I'm about to make another turn, they turn around and they sprint off and they go the other way, like completely, and leave me alone with the gappy going to exclude me and to be mean girls about it. And because it was so funny, and they're like, let's ditch Thomason. So yeah, they ditched me with the gappy, but me and the gappy walked to the sports center. And did it make me feel crappy? Yes. Like, there's no other way about it. I was being excluded in that situation to be malicious. They didn't want me to walk to the sports center with them. They hadn't invited me. They were like, oh yeah. I was like, oh, you guys going to the sports center? Can I go with you? And they're like, oh yeah. But they didn't actually want me there. And so it was like a malicious intent to exclude me. And I had a lot of different experiences that were like that, where I was excluded from things intentionally, not because they didn't think it was my scene, not because of any of the other reasons, solely because they did not want me there. Those kind of things, one, they make you build a really thick skin. And I don't know, I think as an adult, I just could care less about that kind of situation. But I think it happens less to adults. I may be so wrong if you're an adult that is going through people excluding you and it's not one of the reasons I read out, and it's generally because they don't want you there. That is so crazy and like mean girl. And if you think about it, the people who are doing that are such losers, because you should grow out of that behavior at some stage. I mean, the story I'm referencing happened when I was like 13, and a lot of the incidents of being excluded happened as like during my teenage years, like 15, 16, 17, bit at 18. But past that point, that kind of behavior stopped. If you didn't want to hang out with someone, you just didn't hang out with them. You didn't have to pretend to be someone's friend and then exclude them, or like be in a friendship group with someone and hang out without them constantly. So how I handled that situation is I just stopped hanging out with those girls and I would just avoid them. And I took that approach throughout my teenage years. Like, I'm gonna go where I'm celebrated and go where I'm wanted. And now as an adult, I really have a rule for myself when it comes to invites. One, I don't go anywhere I am not wanted or explicitly invited to. And that might be so deep for some people, but I'm like, unless I really want to go, that's different. But like, I rarely really want to go somewhere I wasn't invited to, or I'm not explicitly wanted and included. Because one, it's a waste of your time. You should go where you are valued. And two, I have no interest in being places where I'm not wanted. I rarely experience FOMO now. The only times I experience FOMO is like when someone invites me and I have other plans, but I would have loved to go to what they invited me to. that's when I experience FOMO, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you're all going to go to this thing and I have other plans. I don't get FOMO about places that I don't want to go or I'm not wanted. And I think you have to have that mindset as well. Once I started to value and respect myself, it switched how I saw being excluded. It very much was their loss, or like, I'm not that type of person and that's okay, rather than internalizing that rejection and making it about me and, oh my gosh, there must be an issue with me, or like getting really down and hurt about it. Look, as much as I've said, we're not entitled to invite everyone to everything. Intentionally going out of your way to exclude one person in a big group is unkind. And so I'm not promoting unkindness. These are my learnings on why you weren't invited. It is not always personal. It is not always because people don't like you. It is not always malicious. It can be one of these reasons. And the best way to find out truly why someone didn't invite you is just to ask them. Okay, I'm going to end this episode here. Follow us on social media at Messy Friendship Lessons. Make sure to like, follow, let me know what you think, DM me wherever you are listening. Leave a comment. You can leave comments on Spotify now. How crazy and fun is that? Somebody left a comment on which episode? The one I did with Dion Community, and I loved seeing that comment. So thank you. And if that person, if you're listening to this episode as well, hi girl. So guys, I hope you have a good morning, day, or night whenever you're listening to this. God bless you. This has been the Messy Friendship Lessons podcast. Bye.